The bank statement arrived at Kensington Palace on a Tuesday morning in May 1997. It was mixed in with Diana's regular correspondence, charity appeals, thank you notes, official documents. Diana was sorting through the pile when she noticed the envelope. Plain, no return address. Her name, an address handwritten in block letters. She opened it without thinking much about it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a photocopy of a bank statement from Coutts & Co., the Queen's Bank. The account holder's name had been redacted with black marker, but the transactions were visible, and they were substantial. Monthly deposits of £15,000, always on the 15th of each month, always from an account labeled RCF Trust, and monthly withdrawals of varying amounts, some to Harrods, some to property management companies, some to offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. Diana stared at the statement. Someone had sent this to her for a reason. Someone wanted her to see these transactions. But why? She looked at the envelope again. The postmark was London. No other identifying marks. She set it aside, intending to ignore it. She received strange mail all the time. People sent her things, information, gossip. Most of it was useless. But something about this bank statement nagged at her. The amounts were too large to ignore. The offshore transfers were suspicious, and the timing of the deposits, always on the 15th, suggested something regular. Organized. Deliberate. Diana picked up the phone and called her friend Rosa Monckton. I need your help with something. Can you come over? 2 hours later, Rosa sat in Diana's sitting room, examining the bank statement. Rosa's husband was a banker. She understood financial documents in ways Diana didn't. This is interesting, Rosa said slowly. These monthly deposits, £15,000, is exactly the kind of amount you'd pay for a trust or ongoing arrangement. And the source account, RCF Trust. Do you know what that stands for? No idea. Royal Charity Foundation Trust. It's one of the palace's charity funds, the one that supports various causes and makes grants to organizations. Diana's stomach tightened. So someone is taking money from a royal charity fund and putting it into this private account. It looks that way. These withdrawals to offshore accounts are particularly suspicious. Why would someone need to move charity money to the Cayman Islands? Money laundering? Possibly. Or just hiding assets, making sure certain transactions can't be traced. Rosa looked up at Diana. Why did someone send this to you? I don't know, but I think they want me to investigate. Be careful, Diana. If this is what it looks like, if someone in the palace is embezzling charity money, they won't want you looking into it. Diana took back the bank statement, studied it again. I need to know whose account this is. Can your husband help? Rosa hesitated. It would be risky for him. Banks take client confidentiality seriously. If he looked into this account without authorization, he could lose his job. I understand. But Rosa, if someone is stealing from charity, from causes meant to help people, I can't just ignore it. Rosa nodded slowly. Let me talk to him. I'll see what he can find out discreetly. For the next 3 weeks, Diana received more envelopes, more bank statements, always photocopied, always showing the same pattern. Monthly deposits from the RCF Trust, withdrawals to various places, transfers to offshore accounts. Whoever was sending these wanted Diana to have a complete picture, wanted her to see the full scope of what was happening. Diana started keeping a file. She documented every statement, made notes about the transactions, tried to identify patterns. The withdrawals to Harrods were always in July and December. Holiday shopping, Diana guessed. The payments to property management companies were quarterly. Rent or mortgage payments on properties. The offshore transfers were irregular but substantial. £50,000 here, £75,000 there. Over the year documented in the statements, nearly £400,000 had moved through this account. Money that should have gone to charity. Money that was being diverted to someone's personal use. But whose? Rosa's husband finally came through. He couldn't identify the account holder directly. That would require accessing privileged information. But he could tell Diana something useful. The account was opened in 1986, he told Rosa, who relayed the information to Diana. By a woman, someone with royal connections, because she was able to use Couts without the usual verification process. Someone the bank trusted implicitly. Can you narrow it down? Diana asked. Not without risking my career. But Diana, be careful. Whoever this person is, they have powerful friends. The RCF trust that's funding this account? Only senior royals have access to that fund. Whoever set this up had to have authorization from very high up. Diana felt cold. Senior royals. Authorization from high up. That meant someone close to the queen. Someone with significant power within the palace. She started thinking about who might fit that description. Who had access to charity funds. Who had been around since 1986. Who was a woman with royal connections. And then it hit her. 1986. The same year Charles had officially resumed his relationship with Camilla after years of pretending it was over. The same year Camilla's financial situation had mysteriously improved despite her not having a job or independent income. Diana pulled out the bank statements again, looked at the Harrods purchases, the property management payments, the offshore accounts. She knew. Somehow she knew. This was Camilla's account. Charles was funneling charity money to his mistress. Diana's hands shook as she realized what she discovered. This wasn't just an affair. This was financial fraud, embezzlement, using money meant for charitable purposes to support his girlfriend. She needed proof. The bank statements were evidence, but they didn't definitively identify Camilla. Diana needed something more concrete. She started investigating the property management payments. If Camilla was receiving regular payments for rent or mortgages, there would be records. Property ownership was public information. It took 2 weeks of careful research, calling estate agents, checking land registry records, asking discreet questions, but Diana finally found it. A cottage in Wiltshire, purchased in 1987 for £250,000, registered to a holding company called RB Properties Limited. The directors of the company? Andrew Parker Bowles and his wife Camilla. The quarterly payments to property management companies on the bank statements matched exactly with the mortgage payments on that cottage. Diana had her proof. Camilla was receiving money from a royal charity fund. Money that Charles was diverting from causes meant to help people. Money that was going to support his mistress's lifestyle. Diana called a meeting with her lawyer, Anthony Julius. She showed him everything: the bank statements, the property records, the connection between the RCF Trust and Camilla's cottage. "This is serious," Julius said, his face grave. "If this is accurate, if Prince Charles has been using charity money for personal purposes, it's not just unethical, it's illegal. He could face criminal charges." "I want to go public," Diana said. "I want people to know what he's doing." Julius held up a hand. "Wait. Think about this carefully. If you accuse Prince Charles of embezzlement, the palace will come after you with everything they have. They'll say you're lying. They'll paint you as vindictive. They'll destroy your reputation to protect his. But I have proof. Proof that someone sent you anonymously. Proof that could be dismissed as fabricated. Diana, you need to be absolutely certain before you make accusations like this. And you need to be prepared for the consequences." Diana sat back in her chair. Julius was right. She needed to be sure. Needed more than bank statements and property records. Needed something indisputable. "What if I could get recordings?" Diana asked. "What if I could prove Charles and Camilla were actively discussing the money? How would you get recordings?" Diana thought about the times she'd overheard Charles on the phone. The private conversations he thought she wasn't listening to. "I have access to Highgrove. I could install something. A recording device." Julius looked alarmed. "That would be illegal. Wiretapping. Not if it's in my own house. Highgrove is my house too. I have a legal right to be there." "Diana, this is dangerous territory. If you're caught, I won't be caught. Charles barely speaks to me anyway. He won't notice if I'm at Highgrove when he's not there." Julius wasn't convinced, but Diana was determined. She needed definitive proof. And if that meant recording Charles and Camilla discussing the money, so be it. Over the next month, Diana made several trips to Highgrove when Charles wasn't there. She told staff she was picking up personal items, checking on the property. No one questioned her right to be there. During one of these visits, she installed a small recording device in Charles's private study, hidden behind books on a shelf, connected to a voice-activated system that would only record when people were speaking. It felt wrong, invasive, but Diana justified it to herself. Charles had been deceiving her for years. He'd stolen money meant for charity. He'd used palace resources to support his affair. Recording his conversations was nothing compared to what he'd done. The device recorded for 3 weeks before Diana retrieved it. She took it back to Kensington Palace and listened to the recordings alone in her room late at night, when no one would interrupt. Most of it was mundane. Charles on the phone with staff. Discussions about estate management. Nothing incriminating. But then, on a recording from June 15th, Diana heard it. Charles's voice. "Camilla, darling, the transfer went through yesterday. Should be in your account by now." Camilla's voice, slightly distorted by speakerphone. "Thank you, darling. The cottage needs repairs. The roof is leaking again. This will cover it. Charles, I wish I could give you more, but we have to be careful. The accountants are already asking questions about the charity distributions. Camilla, I know. I'm grateful for what you do for me. I know it's risky. Charles, anything for you. You know that." Camilla laughed. "Even embezzling from charity funds? Charles, you're incorrigible." Charles laughed too. "It's not embezzlement. It's creative accounting. The charities still get plenty of money. We're just redirecting some of it to causes I care about personally. And I'm a cause you care about. You're the only cause I've ever truly cared about." Diana stopped the recording, sat in her dark room, and felt vindicated and horrified in equal measure. She had it. Definitive proof. Charles and Camilla discussing the embezzlement, making light of it, treating it like a joke. Diana made copies of the recording. Multiple copies. She gave one to Paul Burrell. "Hide this. Somewhere safe. If anything happens to me, make sure it becomes public." She gave another copy to Rosa Monckton. "Keep this. Don't listen to it. Just keep it safe." And she kept one copy for herself, locked in her private safe. Insurance against whatever the palace might do when they found out she knew. Because Diana was planning to use this information. Not immediately, but soon. She needed to time it perfectly. Needed to make sure that when she revealed Charles's embezzlement, it would have maximum impact. But then something strange happened. In July 1997, Diana received another envelope. Same anonymous sender. But this time, instead of bank statements, it contained a note. "Stop investigating. You're in danger. They know you have the recording. Destroy it and forget what you learned. This is your only warning." Diana's blood ran cold. Someone knew. Someone knew about the recording device. About the evidence she'd gathered. About her plans. She called Julius immediately. "I think I'm being watched. Someone knows what I've discovered. Then you need to go to the police. Or go public immediately, before they can stop you. I need more time. I need to organize everything. Make sure the evidence is secure. Diana, if you're in danger, I'll be careful. I promise." But Diana wasn't careful enough. Because the palace had resources Diana couldn't imagine. Surveillance capability. Intelligence connections. Ways of monitoring people without them knowing. They'd known about the recording device almost immediately. Known about Diana's investigation. Known about the copies she'd made. And they'd made a decision. Diana had to be stopped. The evidence had to be destroyed. And if Diana wouldn't destroy it voluntarily, they'd find other ways. On August 15th, 1997, Diana wrote a letter to Paul Burrell. She documented everything she'd learned about Camilla's secret bank account, the embezzlement, the recordings, the threats she'd received. "If anything happens to me, make sure people know the truth. Don't let them cover this up. The money trail proves everything. Charles and Camilla are criminals. They're stealing from charity to fund their affair. People need to know." Diana sealed the letter. gave it to Paul with instructions to keep it safe, never imagining that 16 days later, she'd be dead in a Paris tunnel. After Diana's death, the bank statements disappeared. The property records were scrubbed. The recording Diana had made was erased from her safe, taken by someone with access to Kensington Palace in the chaos after her death. But Paul Burrell kept the letter, and Rosa Monckton kept her copy of the recording. And the anonymous sender, whoever they were, kept their own evidence. For years, the information stayed hidden. Paul was too afraid to release it. Rosa didn't know what to do with a recording that implicated the future king in criminal activity. But the truth had a way of surfacing. In 2023, when palace workers opened Diana's storage room and found her hidden documents, they found references to Camilla's account, notes about the investigation, fragments of evidence that Diana had been tracking financial fraud. Prince William demanded to see everything. And slowly, piece by piece, the full story emerged. Charles had been funneling charity money to Camilla for over a decade. Nearly £2 million total. Money that should have gone to causes supporting the homeless, the sick, the vulnerable. Money that instead went to support his mistress's lifestyle. When confronted, Charles claimed he'd reimbursed the charity fund over the years, that he'd always intended it as a loan, that the accountants had been informed. But the accountants told a different story. They'd noticed irregularities but had been told not to investigate, had been warned that asking questions about the RCF Trust would be career-limiting. The scandal was massive, but by the time it surfaced, Charles was already king, and Camilla was already queen consort. The palace's response was carefully calculated damage control. They admitted financial irregularities in the management of charity funds. They announced enhanced oversight. They made public donations to the charities that had been shortchanged. But they never admitted embezzlement, never acknowledged that Charles had broken the law, never apologized to Diana for the money trail she discovered and died before she could expose. William knows the truth, has the evidence, has the recordings, has his mother's letter detailing everything she learned. And someday, when he's king, he's promised himself, the full truth will come out. The money trail will be exposed. Diana will be vindicated because she was right about the affair, about the embezzlement, about Camilla's secret bank account funded by stolen charity money. Diana discovered the truth, and it may have gotten her killed, but the truth didn't die with her. It just waited, patient, persistent,